right. Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
And welcome to the back catalog listening party. My name is Mother Banjo, one of your hosts.
My name is Anthony Ihrig, the other host.
And today we have joining us from South Minneapolis, right down the road from where both I and Anthony live, Mary Bue.
Hey, everybody. I love
And
it.
I say South Minneapolis, but actually I am coming to you remotely today from a Quality Inn in Wisconsin. I'm playing on a little Wisconsin tour here. So hence the beautiful and original backdrop happening behind me. But it looks like folks have gotten to the party early today. Alan, one of our regulars from Texas, joining with Martini time. Whoa.
All
getting
right. Happy
fancy.
Friday.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Happy Friday.
And Connie from Richfield. Hi.
Hey, Connie.
Hi, welcome.
And Alan also says, good to see the band back together. Yeah. So last week, Tony, you were on tour. You were playing in a town. I had to look up where it was on the map.
Managa.
Managa. And it's
Minnesota.
like just north and
Yeah,
central.
just kind of right in the center of the state. But beautiful, right on a lake. It was gorgeous. But I
Nice.
really missed being here. I miss it every week, so it's great to be back and see all our friends like Joe sipping a cold one and listening to the sky blue waters of Lake Harriet. Awesome.
Nice.
Very cool.
Expensive.
And tell us where you're tuned in from, if you're enjoying any beverage or snack on this Friday afternoon as we kick off our weekend. Tony, what are you enjoying?
Well, I am enjoying the box of wine once again this week. It's cold and it's light and refreshing, so it's perfect for a hot day. It's here in the 90s here in the Twin Cities.
Excellent. And Mary, what are you?
I kind of went for it today because I didn't drink that much this week, so I splurged on this sort of splurge. I don't know. It's called Life Vine Pinot Noir from Oregon. Organic, pesticide free.
I was like with pesto? Wow.
Yeah, I know. So I went.
Very cool.
I went for it because it's a special occasion.
Nice.
I like Tony went the box route, but I have to say I'm not as fancy because I stopped at the Quick Trip on the way to the hotel and I got a box, a black box, but it's not cold and it's in a plastic cup. So
Yeah.
it's like Tony, but downgraded a bit.
Well, you could be drinking right out of the box, so that's
It's true.
good.
I went to the effort of unwrapping, taking the shrink wrap off the plastic cup in the hotel. So that's just for you guys. So, well, cheers,
I love
everybody.
it.
Cheers to you, and thanks everybody for being here and joining us. Penny, good to see you in Northfield, Minnesota. For those who are new to the show, this is what we do every week. We get together with our favorite musicians, usually with a happy hour beverage of some sort, and listen to music from their back catalog, music that oftentimes the artist hasn't listened to in a while. And we get to hear the songs and we get to hear the stories behind them. So we're really excited to have you here today, Mary.
I'm so happy to be here. I told you both before, but I've been wanting to be on the show for a while, so I'm stoked. It's such a cool idea.
One of the things we like to do at the beginning of the show is just get a kind of a brief bio of your kind of musical career and basically what led up to the album we're going to listen to today. Do you mind just sharing a little bit about your background for us?
Sure. Well, I grew up in Princeton, Minnesota, about an hour northwest of the Twin Cities, small town. I started taking piano lessons in 4th grade and then abruptly quit in 8th grade and I got an electric guitar after that. So I really
Nice.
wanted to rock. But then when I was about 14, 15, I got obsessed with Tori Amos, Sarah McLachlan, also Ani DeFranco, and all of 90s grunge, Tanya Donnelly and Juliana Hetfield, Courtney Love. I was just getting into more grungy. But I always the piano was what I knew the best and always had my heart. So I started writing songs when I was about 15, 16 and had my first show when I moved to Duluth at 17. So I moved to Duluth in 1998 and I worked as a barista at Amazing Grace Bakery and Cafe.
Oh, yeah.
And
Great venue and listening
Yeah,
room.
that sounds a great venue.
know. And so I started playing the open mics. So I was dared to play the open mic there. was terrified. I had been writing songs in the dorm and shared them with a few friends, and they're like, you should do this open mic, it's really fun. And it was one of the only kind of folk, I don't know, there weren't that many venues there yet, but so a lot of people, that open mic was always packed. And so I got up, I played their piano, and people like were quiet, and it was always like really kind of raucous in there, and it was quiet, and I just felt like, holy moly, they're like actually listening, and like, oh. So then the owner, Chip Stewart, rest in peace, he invited me to have my own show. And so I had my own show. And then in 2000, I put out my first album, and it was called Where the Monarch Circled. And then I put out 4 more albums before this one that we're going to talk about. So in that meantime, I graduated from UMD. I got a bachelor's in psychology. I moved to Rhode Island for a couple of years, to Providence, Rhode Island, and toured around the Northeast a little bit. I moved back to Duluth to go back to UMD because I wanted to study holistic nutrition. So I was going to get all this like biology and chemistry. But then literally on the road trip back, I was like, I had my huge case of CDs, like the leather, like, 200 binder folder or whatever. And I was like, which is, by the way, so dangerous to drive and like switch seat. Do you remember? How like you're just like
flipping the pages, and
what I remember is like after you pull the CD out, so you like have the CD that you're gonna put in, but then you of course aren't gonna put the CD back in its spot. So you like by the end of the trip, your whole like passenger side seat is like littered with like loose CDs like all over the place. Yeah,
sacrilege. Or they're like stuck because the car is hot. Yeah, well, good. So that happened, but I'm driving and I'm listening to all this music, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, I don't want to go back to school. I just really want to do music, like hardcore. So as soon as I got back to Duluth, I started applying for grants and artist residencies, and I had a really amazing artist residency in Seaside, Florida, called Escape to Create. So I got to live in this house and just work on my music. That was 2006. I'm just giving some highlights. That was like really a pivotal time. And then moved back to Duluth, and then to Minneapolis for a few years, and then to Seattle for a few years. And in Seattle is where I started my yoga teacher training. I kind of like started to get really disappointed with playing music, and like had like ego struggles, and just like disappointed, and like high expectations, and just really insecure. And then I discovered, I had been doing yoga this whole time, but I started reading more about yoga philosophy and the view of the ego, and like letting go, like discipline and practice, and like doing something for the sake of the art of it, but then releasing the outcome, kind of like a surrender instead of like all the attachment to it. And I just was like, you know what, I'm gonna leave this ego struggle, go study yoga. Had an amazing time in Seattle, and I wrote most of the songs of the album that we're going to talk about there.
Excellent.
Nice.
And then I moved back and then released this album. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Well, in Duluth, and part of the reason for coming back to Duluth was the incredible music community in Duluth, right? So we all know, like, so I came up with Trampled by Turtles and Charlie Parr, and Low was already really big, in some circles, and just like an incredibly vibrant scene. And I knew engineers there, and I knew I had a lot to go back into. And so I missed that. And that was part of the reason why I moved back to Duluth.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the album we're going to talk about today, again, that was written in Seattle, recorded in Duluth, is Apple in the Ocean. Came out 10 years ago. What?
Yes.
So I'm really excited you picked this one because I really like this record, and I go back to it a lot. The first song you picked to feature today is Beeswax, a song that you still play live in your sets. Is there anything you want to say about the song before we take a listen to it?
Well, there's a really long story about it. I'll try and condense, but I'll tell it after. But I do want to say it was partially inspired by someone I met at the artist residency. Yeah. So, maybe should I just tell it real quick?
Either way,
it's up to you.
No, you play it. Get a
All
hold.
right.
I'll stop.
And then we'll get the context afterwards.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. Well, we're so excited to get Friday started here with Mary Bue and Beeswax here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
It's pounding right out of my chest, fried up and it's crispy. She's got it wrapped up in beeswax. My heart is twisted. It feels like some worn out dish rag ringing out with blood and love. If you're up in beeswax. Think I'll take a walk along the Mississippi and away from the quarry towards your second story. If you're the king of second chances, then I'm the queen of hearts. If you're the king of second chances, then I may as well be the queen of darts with a gun to my head. Away from the quarry along the Mississippi, trading our rackets for sweet saltwater taffy, driving hard up along that river. It makes sense to be a loner, but I'd rather be your lover. Oh, my heart is twisted. It feels like it's bounding right out of my chest. It's right up and it's crispy. She's got it wrapped up in beeswax. Wrapped up in beeswax. Wrapped up in beeswax.
All right. Mary Bue here on the Back Catalog Listening Party with Beeswax from her album that came out 10 years ago, Apple in the Ocean, which we are revisiting today with Mary. And man, that sounds good.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I've heard the recorded version. I'm sure it's probably been about the same for you. But again, as I said, you do play it live a lot. But I'd forgotten that there's those strings on there sounding really nice. What
Yes.
was I hearing a cello and a violin, or was there just
Just
one
string.
set of
It's Ida Joe.
Mm.
And so, do you know Ida Joe?
Yes, I've played some of her. She writes her own music as well, right?
Yes, she's
Mhm.
phenomenal, and so she does this chopping style, like
Yeah, I heard that in there. That's
Yeah.
very cool.
then it's like I don't know what I'm air violin, sorry, but I'm like, you have to. But so I just love that, and it fits so perfect. And she's also a yogini. She does amazing trainings in India and everything. So we have a lot in common. And I just like it felt so special to reconnect with her through this song, through listening to the song. And then Matt Mobley plays bass. But he might have done bow with that, actually, now that I recall.
Yeah, because I thought I heard some lower end,
Yeah,
swinging action.
I heard that too.
Yeah.
Yep.
But very cool. Well, Joni asked that you tell the story, so I think we have to hear the story behind this song.
Thank you, Joni. So at this artist residency, so if you're unfamiliar with artist residencies, they're incredible opportunities for artists to go away somewhere cool or strange or inspiring in some way, and work on their arts, their craft, whether it be writing or music or whatever. And so this one is actually where it's in Seaside, Florida, which is the literal town where the Truman Show movie with Jim Carrey, where that was filmed. That town like is real. That town exists. So, they're beautiful, immaculate houses in this like utopian community, and the homeowners give their houses every January and February to artists to come and work on their stuff. And you get a bicycle, and you get a little stipend for food and whatever. So I'm 25-year-old. I got that residency. I'm like flying high. There's 10 artists total, I think. And so there were some writers, some painters, some installation artists, and some photographers. But I met this installation artist named Leslie Ey, and she does, so installations, you work with like a big environment and create this whole like experience that you walk through or gaze upon. And so she made this experience, and this was 2005, and she had already done it, but she had people post anonymous confessions on the internet. And then she took the confessions and transcribed them onto rose petals.
Oh, wow.
And then she built 900 ceramic doves.
Goodness.
And filled the doves with the rose petals, so they were hollow. And then in the art gallery, she was given this long hallway to work with. So she filled the hallway with these doves, and it was lit from the ground. So it was like they were lit up from below. And so people could come and like see this hallway full of doves glowing with people's confessions on rose petals inside the belly of the dove. And then there's more. She did 2 public ceremonies where people threw the doves out the second-story window and they smashed.
Wow.
Yeah. And then she gathered them. She like had this long gown on. It was like performance art too. So she like had this long gown, and she gathered the pieces. And the last part was she took the broken pieces and wrapped them in cheesecloth and shaped with beeswax into human hearts.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
That sounds incredible.
So incredible.
Is there any kind of documentation of this that we could send people like a link when we in the show notes or something?
Yep. Just under her website, Leslie Ey, it's IWAI. And actually she's based in Madison now. And I know Ellen was over there. I don't know if you'll have time, but
yeah, we just lost Ellen. I think her browser shut down, and her hotel Wi-Fi can be a little finicky.
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, we will. For those of you who are listening, we will grab that URL and throw it in the show notes. It's just backcataloglisteningparty.com/119 for the show notes, and I can't wait to see that. That sounds super interesting, beautiful. And what a great experience. To be around that while you're doing this retreat. That's amazing.
It was amazing.
Now I want to listen to that song again.
I know. Yeah, I tell it before it, but you know what? I was like, let's just. I'm talking too much already.
Well, I, there is something to be said about listening to something and hearing it one way, and then hearing the real story, and now thinking back about it, and what I think it's going to get everybody to want to go listen to it more, and that's a good segue to just let people know that you could own this record in both digital and physical form. CDs are available still, correct, Mary?
Yes. Yep. I still have boxes.
All right, so we
CDs
need
in
to
the
help Mary declutter. And so if you are interested in hearing that song again, you can check out the digital stuff is going to be at Mary Bue at bandcamp.com, and then we have her website as well. Scrolling across the screen, we'll put it in the comments, and you can pick up either the CD or the high-res audio file. Sounds really, really good. I got to ask about because I caught some of the pictures that you had sent earlier, and it sounds like it's in a big room. It's one of the things I'm interested. I love recording, and I love hearing kind of the acoustics of a space. And I could hear a lot of space in this. Do you want to talk a little bit about where this was recorded?
I sure do. So it's at Sacred Heart Music Center, which is AKA Sacred Heart Cathedral. So it's this cathedral in Duluth at the top of the hill that is transformed for many things. There are still some services in it, but it's mostly a music center. So they have concerts. There's a recording studio. Yeah, so here you can see in this photo, this is the piano that's like at the foreground is what I'm playing on. And then in the background is like the big open, amazing room.
Yeah.
And so that is where this album is recorded, as well as a few others that I've done. I think I've done 5 albums there because it's just the space, the acoustics, the amazing humans that work there. Eric Swanson was the engineer for this one. Alan Sparhawk does engineering there too. And yeah, it's just such a special place.
It's gorgeous. And when you recorded this, were you all in that big room playing it live?
Well, it was sort of live, sort of not, like because there's a lot of bleed because it's like all the reverberation. We would. I'm trying to think how we isolated people, but there's like in one of the rooms we kind of sectioned off for the drums. That's like as soundproof as possible, and then sometimes the guitarist is in the actual like where all the buttons are, where all the gear is, and then they close that door and soundproof it, and then just have like the chords going into the mixer, or the mics. So it's like kind of complicated with all the reverb.
But it's really it adds just such a dimension. So for those who are into this kind of thing, for the next song, I want you to listen to the space around like those drum hits. Especially, I could really hear it on the drums. You can just hear the room. And one thing that's been kind of a common theme on the show is how the space that this music is recorded becomes kind of part of the band.
Absolutely.
And I don't know about you, but is there something about it having kind of a spiritual bent part of the experience? I've never been to this studio, but I would think that must have, whatever your faith may be. It seems like it would just be kind of a place that would change your perspective on the music you're creating.
100%. Like there's that ascension quality, and I want to talk about that. Please remind me to talk about that in the Apple in the Ocean song, but just like the high ceilings and like the temple and the way that the sound can rise up is it's really powerful. And I think like I do create like a lot of spiritual type of music, and some, crass and like a lot of swearing too, but like this album does have some of those themes, and to be in that space is like really, there's like a reverence and like just thinking of all the energy. Have you ever heard of the word egregore?
I have not. Is it
so? That's like
related to space, like agora or something?
Yeah. It's like the spirits that surrounds a place from all of the people that have been there. So like think of like the collective energy of like Palmer's Bar, or like
I can imagine that. I can smell it too, which is great.
I know. I love and think of like, so then Sacred Heart Cathedral, all the people that have gone there for worship, and then all of the people that have gone there to do music, and just like the energy of that, and how that energy is like, it's kind of like, think of the like zeitgeist, like the energy of a time. This is like the energy or the spirit's mass of a place. So I think there's definitely like a vortex spirit of Sacred Heart Cathedral.
That's so cool. And I swear this stuff, it gets, encoded into this
Totally.
music.
Yeah.
So, well, speaking of which, I want to hear more from this album. The next song that we have is Little Bird. Do you want to say anything about this before we listen?
Yes. So my friend Charlie Parr played slide guitar on this and does a little beautiful reacting to the vocalization. So that was really special that he came on this. And I also want to say hi to Anne Marie and Anne out there. Thanks for tuning in. It's so fun to see some comments. So,
yeah. Folks out there, listen, this is really a conversation.
Yeah.
It's informal. So jump in the comments, say hi to Mary, and ask your questions. I mean, we have this great opportunity to kind of dig into her art and her music. So don't be shy. But why don't we give this a spin? Little Bird with Charlie Parr, one of our past guests here on the back catalog. He's a favorite for many here. And we can talk a little bit more about it after we listen. This is Mary Bue, Little Bird, here on the back catalog listening party.
Seems funny you're making decisions for me. The lights of the city speak the summer to me. Who's that knocking on the door? No eavesdropping no more. And that little bird down the hall, what's that little bird singing about now? Lay beside me, only in memory. Try and reach me until you complete me. Yeah. Who's there knocking on the door? No eavesdropping no more. And that little bird down the hall, what's that little bird singing about now? Oh, so sensitive. How can you bear to live tiptoeing down the stairs? Someone I adore hiding there. There's someone I adore hiding there. Oh, who's that knocking on the door? No eavesdropping no more. And that little bird down the hall, what's that little bird singing about now? What's that little bird singing about now? What's that little bird singing about now?
Oh, that's a nice fade out. I wanted to hear up to the very last kick drum here. That's
Thank
Mary
you.
Bue, Little Bird here on the back catalog listening party. If you just tuned in, we're revisiting her 2012 release, Apple in the Ocean, and that just there it is. It sounds so good, and I love
you.
the just how much, speaking of space, how much space was in a song like this.
Yeah.
And man, Charlie Parr was sounding so great, and kind of, you know, when I think of bird songs and I think of guitar, I think of that style.
Totally.
And it was just so appropriate for that song. And you know, I'm just curious about arranging, you know, like the first song we heard, it was, you know, kind of a more of a full band, and you got you know, more of a full drum kit and strings players and all the rest. But here we have just, you know, Charlie, it sounded like you, and maybe a kick drum. What is your process for, like, you know, that kind of, not the song part, but the arranging part? Like, is that you? Are you kind of bringing in those ideas? Are you working with the musicians in the studio? How does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, the producing, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
I really, so in my last album that I put out in 2020, I legit had Steve Price from the Suburbs, and
Oh, nice.
yeah, so he produced that one, my most recent thing, and super slick. And so previously I worked a little bit with Hans Johnson in Duluth, who's an incredible producer and musician and lives in Boston now. And so we've done a few little projects, but mostly I have 8 albums. So I've mostly kind of done it myself with musicians I was working with, and like talking with the engineer, and just like really in the moment, and like, I want like this song to be more fleshed out and like big, and like this to have just like little, or just like even just piano and vocal and harmonies and stuff. So yeah, it's very in the moment. I feel like it's something I'd like to develop more, as far as like producing and bringing in like my own sense of production. But there's a lot of intuitive like communication with the musicians I'm working with at the time. So Charlie, really, that was like an interplay of his, like, I didn't like score that or anything. That's like his reaction to literally the moment. And then Eric Swanson, who was the engineer for this record, also I would say co-produced, because he and I sat through a bunch of takes, and like we would cut, you know, certain things that were like, oh, that sounds like such a nice reaction, and like such a weaving of. So Charlie, you know, I can't remember specifically because it was long ago, but he did take a few takes, and then we kind of cut some here and there and slice them in. So.
Well, people are loving it. Gary says
good.
Very nice.
Thanks,
and
Gary.
Ellen, who hopefully will be joining us soon. Her hotel Wi-Fi is a little iffy. She was also kind of commenting on the kind of bird-like call of Charlie's guitar, and Anne chimed in to say, voice like honey with that sweet, sweet guitar.
Thanks,
and,
babe.
I agree. It sounded really, really good. And you know, it's interesting, but Duluth seems to have this effect on even rock and roll musicians.
Absolutely.
Where, you know, like where it just becomes, there's this kind of roots, I don't know, culture or something up there. And songs or other albums I've heard produced from, you know, that area tend to have that kind of feeling. Did you pick up, I mean, you mentioned, you know, a little bit about some of the stuff you're into, Tori Amos and things like that.
Yeah.
Was there a point where some of that, bluegrass and roots and Americana music kind of crept into your world and songwriting?
Yeah, I would say early I was doing more of that earlier, you know, just like piano, simple with violin. I never was like a huge bluegrass person. But I like definitely appreciate it. I'm not like cutting, you know.
Don't worry. It's a safe space here on the back catalog. We pass no judgment.
Over time, I have grown more appreciation for like, wow, like how much jamming and like being in the moment, and like the acute amount of listening that happens with bluegrass and roots and blues, and just like that ability to really listen, to be able to communicate musically in that way. And I'm like, I write the song, here's the song, here come people play on it, you know. It's not like I'm gonna like sit and like jazz over here, you know. I'm like, that terrifies me. I'm like starting to break out of my comfort zone after, I don't know, 22, 23 years of doing this. But so anyway, the Duluth for me was more like melancholy,
Like
super
the low
introspective.
side of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, but like you mentioned, it's a really rich kind of music town, but it does seem to kind of have an influence on music that comes out of there. There are some threads,
Totally.
and that's I guess what I was getting at. I was just trying to see what
Yes.
those what are those threads that I don't know. It must be it's something about maybe it's the big lake and you know, just the kind of the ethos of the people up there.
Totally.
Right on. Cool. Well, I just want to let everybody know. I saw this comment come through where Anna Marie mentioned these Tuesday music updates.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if this might be related to your Patreon.
It is indeed.
Awesome. Well, I think it's a great time to let everybody know that there's more than music, you know, in your life, and there's more than one way to support Mary. Do you want to talk a little bit about your Patreon and your community and the kind of things you offer there for that community?
Sure. Thank you so much. It's such a weird thing to talk about. Not weird. It's so good. I feel like every creative person should have one. So Patreon, Patreon is it's a platform. It's a subscription platform where you can support the artists and creators that you really love and get like behind the scenes stuff. And so every week I've been doing, for the most part, because my schedule is wacky, but every Friday I offer a yoga class. Certain tiers, and then that's recorded. I do it on Zoom. I do it live too, for anyone who wants to join. And then every Tuesday, sometimes Wednesday, sometimes Thursday, sometimes next week, but mostly every Tuesday, I've been going through my back catalog and doing like a song a day and talking about. I give the song download and I talk about the stories behind it and the musicians involved or the relationships. I try not to throw anyone under the bus, but you know, just like that time and like just a little bit of the process of what was going on with that song. And I feel like this audience with this show gets that. And I think that there's those people that maybe don't want to know about the story behind the song. They want to like go have their own experience. But I think even knowing the story, you can still have your own experience, of course. You know?
Absolutely. No, totally agree. And you're right. You are speaking to the same crowd here. We have our own Patreon community, and it's just people who appreciate, you know, all the aspects that go into this art, you know, and it's not just the music, it's the stories behind it and all the other things that the artist is doing, like your yoga. I think that's so great. What a great perk. If you want to know more about these perks, we have Mary's Patreon on the screen here, and we'll put it in the comments as well, so you can check out that for more information. But I want to keep going with this wonderful music, and I always love when we get to listen to a title track, because there's something about like how does it get this song get elevated to the top? You know, how does this song become the album title? And I want to hear all about it. So the next song that we have queued up, spoiler, is "Apple in the Ocean," which is the title track. Is there anything you want to say about that before we listen, or you want to talk about it?
Well, it's about desire. It's about desire and the human fallibility. But this is where I want to talk about the ascension thing and how I've changed my mind on that a little bit.
Oh, excellent. Yes, let's hear it.
Awesome.
Oh, okay. You want to talk about it after the
after?
Okay.
After. I'm like, awesome.
This is where we're going to talk about. All right.
Nope.
Well,
we're doing it after.
That sounds great. All right, we're gonna give it a spin here. This is the title track from Mary Bue's 2012 release, "Apple in the Ocean," here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
In an apple orchard lace at the ankles, barefooted in the sand, dropping dead seaweed down to the beach shore. Hive hangs from a tree. Man-made web of hell, you said. A cycle of samsara, birth, life, and death, over and over again. When flesh sizzles on my bones, shiver shoots from head to toes. Shit, I don't know where it's going to go. Seems I'm stuck in a cycle on my own. I'm stuck in a cycle all my own. The sutras speak of germinating seeds, becoming full-blown weeds. But weeds have healing properties. Weeds have healing properties. And I crave your smoke and the scent of new skin. I crave ending and beginning again. Shiver up my spine, tingle linked to all of time. Biology is destiny, and pheromones have majesty. Disobey my best intentions, and the web swells in expansion. Need to find a way to transcend the body, the desire that spins and threatens to dissolve me. Dissolve me. Dissolve me. Dissolve me. Dissolve me. Dissolve Where thatched roof swallows sing, staircase leads us to the beach. I hum a song about apple seeds, and apples are bobbing out in the ocean. Somehow I'm swept out to sea. The apples are bobbing out in the ocean. Sometimes I'm swept out to sea.
All right. Mary Bue with Apple in the Ocean, the title track to her 2012 release. And yes, I'm Mother Banjo, one of the
I'm so
hosts.
glad you're
Well,
back.
welcome back.
Had some dramatic tech issues here at the
Oh.
Quality Inn. My Wi-Fi less than quality, I will say that. But I'm so happy to be back, and I was listening on my iPhone to the show. I was like watching on the small screen and listening to the conversation, and I'm so glad I got to be back for this song. And it felt like the spirits. You were talking about the spirits, and we're gonna get the whole backstory, but I. I feel like we were talking about that, how like all the things come together, and I feel like I was trying to channel that energy and my sort of yogi self trying to channel that energy of like just relax. Your computer will come on when it's going to come on. You can't rush it. It's going to
Yeah.
take as long as that spinning wheel takes. it'll just be what it is, and I got to just enjoy your conversation. So I'm really happy that I got to enjoy that song though with all of you, and I know Joni says so beautiful. She says, "Are those your own vocals backing you, or another artist on harmony?"
They're my own. It's like my own. It's like my favorite thing to do in the studio is have layers of vocals. I wish I had a few heads. Just, I mean, that would probably, it would be terrible. Actually, that would be terrible. But I love like the layering. I love it. So thank you. I'm so glad you liked it.
Yeah. And Michael
Yeah.
also said, "What a beautiful song." And
Thank you,
agreed.
Michael. Ooh. Yeah.
And yeah, we'd love to hear what you were going to say
Yes,
about
yes.
the song.
Sure. So I was living in Seattle when I wrote the song. I lived there 2000. So I moved there around 2008 and was there about 3.5 years, 2011-ish. And I used to go, like, there's so much beauty in Seattle. It's kind of like a giant Duluth in a way. And so the hills and the water, and I used to go to this park called Carkeek Park, and there are sometimes art installations in the nature there. So there happened to be this art installation of like this hive hanging from a tree, and it had all these bodies, like all these like figurines of body, not like just like figure of humans just like around the hive, not like a morbid thing, but just like kind of swarming, you know, instead of bees there were humans. And so that made me think of samsara, which is this endless wheel of suffering, right? And like so if you think about whatever your ideas of life and death, and some people believe in reincarnation, and it's an interesting, fascinating thing to think about, of like this life, maybe there's another one after it, and maybe there was one before it, and you know this, but then to get out, there's a lot of suffering in this life. I've experienced it. Maybe I've experienced more in other lifetimes or less, or what all we took to get into this one, the luck, the gratitude, the who knows. But so the one of the things that the yogis say about that wheel is that what can get us in trouble is our desire and our attachments. And so this is what I was like seeking to get out of in trying to do this like career in music of like this outcome of like fame, or like you know, how many likes, or you know, selling albums, or it's just like a mind fuck, right? So
It's, yeah.
So how can I love it for what I love from it as a creative person, and like loving to write songs and the listening to music and all of that love, you know, and instead of like marring it with that weird dark expectation, or not even dark, but just, you know, you all know, we're all friends here.
Yeah.
So it's complicated. So then like the sutras say, the yoga sutras say that there's like, if we feed a seed, you know, all the nutrients to grow, you know, hopefully in the right environment, it will grow. But then there are also seeds that will grow with our thoughts and actions that might not be in the right action. They might not, we're feeding energy in a negative way. We're feeding energy in a way that might harm others or harm ourselves. And so how can we be aware of this seed that we're planting that might not be so good, and then use our like thinking to like, and our awareness to like gently move ourselves into a next right step. So that's kind of what this song is about. It's
Wow.
a lot. Yeah.
Well, it does feel appropriate. You were talking about the spinning wheel. Again, I that's what I was literally watching as the song was starting. Was the like spinning wheel of
The
death in
beach
my
ball,
computer?
yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and who's here now watched my spinning wheel this morning because my yoga class on Patreon just completely finked out. So it's like been a day. I don't know. Is Mercury in retrograde? I don't know.
I don't know.
There
But,
was a big solar flare coming to Earth. Maybe it
Oh
arrived.
my god! Oh my
and its sole purpose was to boot us off of the Wi-Fi. But this is so beautiful to hear these backstories of the songs. If you have any more questions or comments for Mary, we only have time for probably one more song. So this is your chance to squeeze in them while you can. And we're gonna try and take one more listen. As I know, sad face, Anne. Well, the good news is that you can, of course, keep tabs on Mary. Obviously, she has her Patreon where she connects with people every week when the Wi-Fi gods allow, and then she also has some shows coming up for folks who live in Minnesota. A bunch of people are tuned in from Minnesota. She's playing next Wednesday in Bemidji and by the water, and then next Thursday at PV Plaza at noon, a free show there. And you can keep tabs on all her shows and get her music so you can carry Mary with you wherever you go, whether it's on the ocean or in a Quality Inn in Wisconsin. MaryBue.com is how you do that. So
Right. And one more time, you could also carry her around in your CD player. You can, or in your digital player, which is probably more appropriate these days. She's got a Bandcamp site for her digital stuff and a shop on her website where you can get the physical copies that she just showed you. Purchasing an album goes a long way to supporting artists in this day and age, and is worth many streams, many streams per CD. But also just knowing that people are out there listening, I think means so much. So if you like what you hear, you can head on over to her Bandcamp page or her website, which is in the comments and scrolling on the screen, and let Mary know how much you appreciate her music.
and it looks like we just turned Anne's crying face into a heart face. So that yay.
Yay!
And then and Joni asks if you ever live stream any of your shows, Mary.
I do here and there. I didn't get like super into it in the well, we're still in Pando times, but I do here and there, and I will definitely let you know. I have a mailing list. I send a newsletter.
I was just gonna say that's a great way to stay in touch. Yeah.
And I'm sure the Patreon folks would also be privy to that. So one more time, we'll put that on the screen so you can see it there. Patreon.com/Mary Bue.
And hi, Vitali.
And we are going to enjoy one more song together. And again, in case you're new to the show, we let the artist pick both the album and the track. So it's always kind of a nice surprise to see what they pick. And the last track that Mary picked to feature on today's show is Cosmopolitan. Is there anything you want to say about it before we dive in?
No, it's just, I guess it's about expectations and like the I want to say bumble of youth. Is that when you're youthful and just being like, oh, like all that weird hope and like, yeah. So it's fun. I mean, it's like, yeah, weird hope. Let's keep it going.
Let's keep the weird hope going.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's give it a listen. This is Mary Bue, Cosmopolitan, here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
The hottest legs through the turnstile, airport gate, taking you to another place. And the look on your face is showing that you can't relate to your insides. At 25, you can't relate to your fellow peers. They all look at you really weird, and you think it's mighty queer. Doing into a little tin can. You're waiting to be consumed. They're sucked out in a vacuum, and that's how your lungs feel these days. And like your legs could give way, but you don't even have a shell. It's decorating someone's windowsill. Your shell's in a pretty glass bowl, turned into a pretty little cone, and you will never be very tall. Short, stocky legs, and you're kinda small, but your home is around the bend, perhaps in your lover's hand or the stars in heaven.
All right. Mary Bue with Cosmopolitan from her 2012 release, Apple in the Ocean, which we have been revisiting today on the back catalog listening party with Mary and occasionally me. And during the whole time, Anthony Ihrig, our, our fearless tech leader, and taking over the reins when my Wi-Fi dropped out. But that song, I it's been a long time. I play a lot of songs from this record, as you know, Mary, on my radio show, but it hasn't gone out of rotation on Women Folk. But that song I hadn't heard in a while, and I forgot how much I love it. I love that
thank
line
you.
about being on your own planet with your peanut butter sandwich.
Yes!
I just,
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
I
feel like
really
that.
resonate.
We
Yeah.
can all relate. Yes. Absolutely.
Exactly. And well, that was wonderful. And let's keep that weird hope alive.
Yes.
You can
Amen.
support Mary's music, and also check out. She has 2 really great new singles that came out this spring, Aftermath and Bones in the Mirror. And you can check that out on her website. You can find it on the digital places. But again, find a way of following Mary and supporting her music, because we want more wonderful music.
Yes.
Of all kinds, weird and not. So thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been so fun. What a hoot.
So great to have you here, and so great to have all of you here. And if you've enjoyed the show, as clearly the comments indicate you have,
Yes.
then
Yay.
give it the thumbs up on YouTube, and direct more bots to Mary Bue. And then also, if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel, because we do this every Friday, and you can get reminders about who's coming up next week on the show. So you can do that there. And as we mentioned, Mary has a Patreon, which you can support her music every month. Artists really rely on that kind of income, and it's a lot of fun for you because you get lots of cool stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, we also have a Patreon. These are the folks that have kept the show going since March of 2020. What?
Yes, I know.
119 episodes or something like that. We want to thank Penny, Anna, Linda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Alex, Becky, Galen, Peggy, Joe, Jim, Beverly, and John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Court, Matt, Steve, Mark, Homestead, Pick and Parlor, Severin, Lynn, Craig, Jake, Mary, Mini Tracks, and Nikki, and maybe you, if you want to support it. We have that link scrolling on the bottom of the screen. You can also find it on our website, backcataloglistingparty.com. And we should mention that we archive all of our shows there. You can find them on YouTube, of course, like what you're seeing here. But you also, if you go to our website, you'll see all the episodes we've done with the show notes. So you can see the tracks we listened to and the links and the cool photos and all that jazz.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Mary, thank you so much for spending an hour with us this week. This was just what I needed this week.
Me too. What
Me
a
too.
pleasure. Seriously. I've been wanting to be on the show, so yeah.
Well,
I
you got 8
feel
records, so
happy.
there's hopefully we can get you back for another
I
one
would
of your
love
back
it. I would love
catalogs.
it.
Yeah.
I'm honored. I'm just, when the music's so personal and like people actually want to hear about it, it's like, it means a lot. So.
Well, I will say this album 10 years ago, it sounds really good and fresh now.
Thank
and
you.
Congratulations on that, because I know it's weird revisiting your music. And
It
we
is.
are so grateful that artists like you are willing to do it with us in front of an audience. So
Yeah.
thank you.
My pleasure.
Well, this is a great way to kick off the weekend, and I hope you all stay safe and enjoy some music wherever you might be. And from here in Wisconsin, I want to thank you all for tuning in, and
Yeah,
thank you
thanks,
so
Mary,
much.
and thank you all, and we'll see you next
Thank
week
you.
on the Back Catalog Listening Party. Happy weekend.